Hey, this is Jamey on Sunday morning, and I'm doing my weekly Sunday sit-down chat where I sit down and talk about a subject or subjects in a little bit more detail, in a little bit more length than usual, and in a little bit more of a casual manner. Today, I'm going to talk about 7 games that I played at Geekway and what my favorite mechanisms are in those videos. I know this sounds a little bit similar to last week's video where I just talked about every game that I played at Geekway, but what I'm doing now specifically is talking about my favorite mechanisms. So this is essentially a bunch of favorite mechanism videos in one, because given the number of games I played at Geekway, I'm just never going to catch up if I only do them twice a week. So, and also these are kind of games with very specific small mechanisms. They don't really need a full video in my opinion, but that isn't to say that these aren't great games. It just means the mechanisms are very specific. So the first one I'll start out with is actually one that I played last year at Geekway, but I just never got around to talking about it because the mechanism is so specific in the game. I don't know if it warrants a full video, and that is Istanbul. Istanbul has a lot of interesting mechanisms. I wouldn't say that I love the game, but it did have one little mini game that I really liked in it, and that mini game is on one of the tiles. You can play this little mini game where you choose a number, and then you roll some dice. And I believe it's 2 dice. And if the number you pick ends up being higher than the dice you roll, am I saying that the other way around? Maybe it's the other way around. The number you pick, so say if you pick 10 and you roll, now you have to roll higher than that number. I believe that's it. You have to roll higher than that number. And you roll like an 11, then you get 10 resources. I think you get gems out of it. Someone can correct me in the comments. But if you don't, you get like a small consolation prize. So if you miss, you only get a little bit. And what I really like about this is it's such a clever little mini game because it incentivizes you to choose a really high number. But if you do, your odds go way down. And so really, it's also incentivizing you to choose a low number, because if you choose like a 3, then your odds are great that you'll actually roll higher than the 3. But you're getting fewer resources if you do that. I'm not sure if I'm stating this minigame completely correctly. You can correct me in the comments. But the idea, you get the gist of the idea, where you get to choose a number and roll and see what happens with the outcome. Really like that mechanism in Istanbul. The next one I'm going to talk about, I probably should do a full video on because I like this game so much. It's new to me. It's called Fantasy Realms. It's a little filler game that I've never heard of. I had never heard of until a few weeks ago when I played it, and then I brought it to Geekway. I bought it immediately and brought it to Geekway because it immediately jumped into my top filler games list. I really like this game as a filler. And basically, it is combo the game. You're creating combos in this game, and they are powerful combos. So, for example, if you have the Whirlwind card, it says bonus. So Whirlwind is worth 13 points if you have it in your tableau at the end of the game or your hand at the end of the game. And it says bonus plus 40 points with Rainstorm and either Blizzard or Great Flood. And here's the Great Flood card. So what this is telling you, if you have this card, you could get rid of this card. You don't have to pay attention to it at all. Or you can go after the bonus and try to get that Rainstorm and try to get that Blizzard or the Great Flood, which will come up. These are cards that you can either randomly draw from the top of the deck, or you can draw from the face-up tableau of cards, which consist of cards that players have discarded on their turn. So they're discarding face-up cards. This is just such a fun combo game because every card has these weird combos on them. Fountain of Life gives you a bonus where you add the base strength of any one weapon, flood, flame, land, or weather. Collector does these things. Collector can get you 100 points if you do the Collector to its full extent. It is so satisfying to get these combos together. And the game really cleverly, even when you don't pull off the combos, it gives you the points in the upper right-hand corner, unless that card is blanked. There's a way to blank cards. And all you're doing is building this hand of cards, and then the game ends. It lasts like 10 minutes, and then you score. Scoring probably takes almost the length of the game. And you end up with these absurd scores, 100, 200 points, because of the combos you created. It is so satisfying and so fast. I really like this game as a filler game. And that I wasn't sure, like in a full video, how to say like that combos are my favorite mechanisms, because combos are always great. But I just really like how this game executes the combo concept. Let's see, what's next? Amon-Re. So this is a game that was on my list to play at Geekway, and fortunately Nicholas taught me how to play. I played with my brother and played with Rebecca. I had a blast playing it. It's a really clever auction game. I would say, I think I mentioned in my other video, I still prefer Ra of the Knizia auction games. I love Ra. But this was actually a really, really solid auction game too. And the mechanism that I was going to mention in my video, that I'll mention now instead, is that it does the thing in games like in Brass where you wipe the game clean halfway through the game. And not completely clean. You've built some structures, some pyramids on the board, but you play like half the game and you bid on these areas, you control these areas, you get benefits from these areas, you score them, you maybe get some resources from them, you build up on them, and then you lose control of them. Halfway through the game, you lose control of everything that you lost control of, and pretty much everything except for the pyramids, the buildings, are wiped clean off the board. So, and then you play one other round, but you're essentially playing another half of the game. You're playing a new game with the board mostly reset, and you're now bidding on these new territories and controlling new territories for the second half of the game. I hadn't seen this idea used until I played Brass recently, and now I've seen it in Amon-Re. But it's just such a clever concept especially for learning the game. Or relearning it if you haven't played it in a while, because you might kind of stumble through that first half of the game, but then you get a reset, you get a redo without having to completely replay the game, because you get the second half of the game where everything refreshes. But it also, interestingly, changes the value of certain territories because those buildings remain on the territories. The values of bidding in that second half of the game might change significantly based on what's there. Really, really good game. I actually really do look forward to playing Amon-Re again. TMG has a really nice reprint of it right now. Zendo's next on the list. I played Zendo at Geekway. Zendo was really nice because I sat down with a random group. They invited me over to play. They'd already played a round or two. But Zendo, you kind of just play it until you're tired of playing it, I think. I'm sure there's a real way to end the game, but at a convention it's really nice because you can sit down for 5 minutes, play around, and then get up and go, or you can keep on playing round after round. In Zendo, the idea is that you have these weird 3D shaped blocks, 3D blocks, and one player is establishing a rule based on a card that they drew, but they have some choice on that card. And then they are organizing a set of these 3D blocks in a way that meets the rule, and then another set of 3D blocks in a way that breaks the rule. And all the other players are trying to guess the rule by using more blocks, there are plenty of blocks in the middle of the table, to create combinations that either meet or break the rule, and trying to figure out the rule based on what you build and what the person who knows the rule tells you. It reminded me a lot of Visitor in Blackwood Grove, which I have back there on the table, and Fake Artist Goes to New York, which is also back there, where one player kind of knows the rule and everyone else is in the dark and they're trying to find it. Now, what I found really interesting about this game is almost a meta issue, or not issue, a meta occurrence that happened, which is that in the second round that we played, the player who chose the rule chose one that we just could not figure out. And so we went round around the table trying to figure it out, trying to guess, to get these configurations, and we cannot figure it out. And at a certain point, this competitive game started to become cooperative because we started to talk to each other about it. We started to share, like, point out to each other, like, no, that won't work. Don't try that. Try something different. Or have you thought of this? Have you thought of that? We were collaborating organically outside the bounds of the game because it is a competitive game. And it made me think it would be interesting to have a game that starts off competitive but becomes more and more cooperative the longer you play. Like if someone hasn't won by a certain point, it becomes cooperative. And that ideally it would be, in this case, it was more fun that way because we were getting more and more frustrated that we couldn't figure it out. And so we organically started collaborating, and it felt good. It felt fun again as soon as we started doing that. Just made me think that I wonder if there's potential for a game to formally have that structure. And I'm sure, as I mentioned, I'm sure some of you will mention something right away. Some game that already does this. A game that starts off competitive, and if no one has won it by a certain point, it becomes cooperative. What's next? Majesty for the Realm. This was a game, kind of a card-driven game, and it's just kind of a pleasant game. Like I struggled, honestly, to think of a truly unique mechanism in this game. But and maybe in the comments you can think of something that you like about it. But the thing that I do like about it, that I've seen in other games too, is that you have this row of cards, this row of I think 5 exposed cards from the deck, and you are selecting one of them and playing that card on your turn. And there is like an end to the row, a far right of that row. If you choose that card, you don't pay anything. If you choose one card deeper in the row, you have to pay a worker and on each card that you go past. We've seen this in many other games, right? Agricola kind of has this with the buildings, although no, Agricola isn't a great example of this. I would say Small World is a better example. Century Spice Road does the same thing, where if you buy further down the row, you pay more and you increase the value of all the other cards that you're moving past, because the next player to choose those cards gets the workers or whatever resource that you put on that card. I really like this mechanism because it gives, as someone I was learning the game, it made it easy for me to choose maybe the first or second card in the row because it was cheaper. I didn't have to pay as much, but every once in a while resources would pile up on another card and I'd be like, okay, I'll take that card and just benefit from those resources. I really, really like that element of it. And it just works. I mean, it's just a nice streamlined mechanism. The one weird thing about it as a publisher that I've thought about with this mechanism is that it is a bit of a hassle to constantly be having to slide those cards to the right as you are selecting more cards and adding them to that tableau. I think this is the case. I first started to notice this in Lewis and Clark, where you are frequently sliding the cards, although even that, it doesn't happen all that often. In this game, it constantly happens because every round, every turn, someone is choosing a card, and so someone has to manage that flow of cards. So I kind of wish game trays would invent a tray that where you pick up the card, the rest of the cards just slide into place, and then you just put the top card of the deck in the right place. That would be really, really nice. Okay, two more to go. Indian Summer. Indian Summer is the latest in the line of Uwe Rosenberg games to use these polyomino blocks. I think that's the term for it. That like in Patchwork and in Feast for Odin and in Cottage Garden, where you're getting these tiles and you're placing them somewhere on the board. The thing that I think Indian Summer adds to that series of games is that there are holes in the tiles. There's one hole in every tile. And when you put these tiles on your player mat, if that hole reveals a certain icon underneath it, it means something. It's good. And while I have no idea how Uwe Rosenberg tested this, I'm guessing he used a hole puncher to maybe punch a bunch of tiles. The prototyping must have been a huge hassle for it. I really like the concept of having these holes in the tiles. It's a new twist on this mechanism of. I think he's brilliant for thinking of it. Like, why not punch a hole in it? And if you place that hole over a certain spot, it means something. That's good. It feels good. So I really, really like that mechanism. I'd like to see it in other games too. Last, Suspend. Suspend is a dexterity game that I played at Gen Con, or at Geekway, and had a blast playing it. This was, it's all these wires that are suspended in midair, and you're trying to hang your wires on the other wires to get rid of all the wires that you have. I just used wires like 20 times in that sentence. But you're trying to get rid of all your wires and hang them without all the other wires coming crashing down. It's just a clever, simple dexterity game, and I really, really like how carefully you have to place the wires on the other wires. So they have these little ridges where they fold into each other. They hang from each other, and you can't just place the thing on there and let go. The game lets you, as long as you're holding on to the wire that you're placing, you can test as much as you want different areas to see how it impacts the balance of the overall structure. Because if you start to put it on one wire and you let it start to hang down, you'll see a bunch of other wires that respond to the physics of that. And you kind of see the impact of that one thing. So late in the game, you might put a wire down and you might see 6 other wires start to move in different directions that you didn't exactly anticipate. And some become like very precariously close to falling off, or having wires that are suspended from them fall off. So I really, really like how you can test it with your wire to see how the physics of the overall structure will respond to where you're placing it. And I also really, really like the moment at which you actually let go, because you're not just placing it on there letting go. You're placing it on there and kind of guiding the wire down to the lowest point that it'll hang, and then you very carefully let go, and you kind of just see what happens from it. It reminded me a little bit of Animal Upon Animal, but with surgical precision as to that exact moment when you let go, which I really liked about it. So those are the games I'm talking about today. Istanbul, Fantasy Realms, Amon-Re, Zendo, Majesty for the Realm, Indian Summer, and Suspend. If you have any thoughts on the games that I've mentioned here, or these make you think of any mechanisms that you really like, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. And yeah, that's my Sunday sit down. I'll have a good weekend. Have a good Memorial Day if you're in the U.S. And I will see you on Tuesday with a new video. Thanks.